somewhere along the way she's feeding into it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I can ask you to take your seats, please turn off your cell phones to avoid any interruptions in the program. Just a reminder, if you don't want your photo taken, to please let the Surrey Board of Trade staff know. We do use photos for both internal and external publications. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Anita Huberman. I'm CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade, and Surrey is where business happens. And that is why we started this Surrey Entrepreneur Showcase series, our second one, to showcase the great innovation and leadership that is in our city. And we have three great entrepreneurial leaders that you're going to be hearing from later this morning. And you're going to have a chance to interact with them. That's why we kept it very intimate, very small, so that we have that time for you as entrepreneurs to learn. So even if you're just starting out on your business journey, or if you're a mature business, learning happens each and every day. And that's so important for all of us to remember. So we begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of our Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Tawasin First Nations. Our media sponsors for this event are BC Business and the Surrey Now Leader Media Group. Let's give them a great round of applause. And if you're starting a business or need business support or need trade support, visit our Business and International Trade Center at the Surrey Board of Trade. And of course, we can't run anything at the Surrey Board of Trade without sponsorship. So I'd like to thank the accounting firm of PwC, the law firm of Fasken, our Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan represented by SNF Benefits. Let's give them a great round of applause. So the Surrey Board of Trade, we support business, we bring business into the city, and we need all of you to tell everyone, not only in Surrey, but wherever you go in this nation, the great innovation that's happening in our city. And also to join Surrey's business organization. We have 6,000 business contacts that are members of the Surrey Board of Trade, offering a very diverse concierge of services. So just check us out at businessinsurrey.com. I also wanted to mention a couple of months ago, and you're going to be hearing more about this, we started a Startup Surrey chapter in partnership with the Health and Technology District by the Lark Group, the SFU Venture Coast Capital Connection series, so a variety of students that are starting up. We're incubating their new technology. The Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association, we are now a division nationally of 50 Startup Canada chapters. And we formally announced, I was in downtown Vancouver a couple of weeks ago, and announced the great innovation and the Startup Surrey chapter that's happening in Surrey. So wait to hear more. There's going to be a lot of pitch events, a lot of contests, and a lot of co-working spaces. And that's the whole intent of Startup Surrey, is to create new businesses, new innovation, create good quality jobs right here in our city. And there's more information on that on our website at businessinsurrey.com. So the next portion, as I mentioned, of our program this morning is meant to be interactive. And our panelists this morning represent various sectors within Surrey. We have a very diverse industry sector base in Surrey, but we have three that we're representing this morning. Early childhood care, so important to doing business in Surrey, to ensure that your kids are taken care of so that parents can focus on their business, their careers. Renovation, custom homes, and home improvement. We have a thriving construction development industry in Surrey. And food and trade. They're all going to provide their perspectives on how they started their journey to success. And then it's going to be your turn to ask them questions. You know, what is it that you can learn from them? What worked? What didn't? So let's meet our panel. Our first panelist is Sandra Christian, founder and president of Creative Kids Learning Center. Let's give her a round of applause. Graeme Huguet, general manager and owner of My House Design Build Team. And the lovely Raveena Oberoi, owner, head decorator, and pastry chef of Just Cake Bakeshop. And now let's begin. Sandra, you're up.
Thank you so much for having me today. Can you hear me, everyone? Yeah? Okay, great. To speak on behalf of the Surrey Board of Trade Entrepreneurial Breakfast. I'm a little bit nervous, so please bear with me. As an entrepreneur in Surrey for close to 24 years, I feel honored to have been asked to speak to everyone today. I hope I'm able to give you some insight and answer any questions you may have. To reflect back where I started Creative Kids as a very young and very tenacious woman who is passionate about teaching and educating young children. I wanted to make a difference, and I really thought I could. And I feel I have. My vision was to shape and mold preschool children aged 3 to 5, making a difference and planting the seed for education before they entered the public school system. I loved what I wanted to do. I was 23 at the time. I lived in Surrey. I had no money, and I reiterate, no money. I went to CIBC in Newton and asked to speak to the bank manager, and I didn't leave for over 2 hours until I finally did. I met with them and ended up borrowing $15,000, and that's where my company began. I bought a double-wide portable from a woman I considered a mentor, and I still do. I was working as a supervisor at her childcare company, and I was doing well, but I wanted more. I wanted to implement the program that I wrote while doing my early childhood education. She wanted to sell, and we worked out a deal over 4 years to pay her back, and I did. And that is the start of Creative Kids Preschool, and we started it on Panorama Ridge in Surrey. I trademarked my hand-drawn logo with a family who believed in me, and that's where planting the seed for further education came from. I actually drew that myself. I was, at the time, I did everything. I taught. I also worked 2 jobs, so I would teach during the day, all day long, and then I would change into my uniform and I would go and cashier at Save On Foods till 12:15 at night. And I did that for about 5 years. I still couldn't afford to pay my rent or do much, and then I ended up waitressing at the Keg until I was 33 years old. So when people think or say to me now, what was it that got you to where you are now in business? I say tenacity, and failure wasn't an option. So whatever I had to do to make my company work, I just didn't take a paycheck. And I did that for quite a long time. I no longer have to do that. So that's great. So Creative Kids starting off in a double-wide portable, and I had 1 assistant with me. I now have up to 200 employees, so I have 200 educators that work for me, and now have 11 locations and over 3,000 children. Did I think this is where I'd be now, up to 24 years later? No, I didn't. But I'm very proud about where Creative Kids is now. Present. We just opened up our 11th location in Chilliwack, and that is our largest location. I believe it's just over 10,000 square feet and has 25 teachers there alone. So I'm really proud about that. And we're currently looking at another location in Surrey right now. So that should be opening in about 1.5 years. When I have time to reflect, the first thing that comes to my mind is this true? Is this my story? Did I do this? And then I sit back with pride and say, yes, I did. Actually, driving here today was a bit of a moment because I drove past the high school that I attended. And I grew up primarily in Whalley in the Surrey area as well. So, yeah. That's kind of a little bit of my story. The future is bright, and we're continuing to grow, and our mandate right now is affordable, accessible, quality childcare. Yeah.
Good morning. My name's Graeme Huguet, and my mom was an early childhood educator as well, and in fact, as a single parent, she put herself back to school and then started in teaching kindergarten when kindergarten wasn't in the school system yet. And then she went on to teach at Trinity Western, teach other teachers to be teachers. So it's a great, I know that she did that knowing that I was coming along in her later years. She actually started back to school at 40 and had me when she was 44. So that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about this morning, but I thought it's a great segue. So thank you for having me speak this morning and share. And, you know, I love the title, at least the title we were given, and that's the entrepreneurial journey. I don't know if you know that's what we're supposed to talk about, but that's what I was told. And because that's exactly what my life's been. It's been a journey, and it's all been based on entrepreneur. My mom was a single parent, and we grew up basically with nothing, living in a little basement suite most of our life in Delta. And she taught me a great work ethic along with other things like don't owe anybody any money. You know, if you have a credit card, always pay it off every month. And how to get by with very, very little. And I remember having food hampers dropped off to the door from the local church. And my mom would always look for ways that she could help someone else less fortunate, even when she had nothing. I remember going to the buffet, and she'd always bring some other single parent along with their kids, and I'd watch them pile their plates, but my mom would pay the bill at the end. And really excited about how she brought that up. So she always spoke success. That was probably one of the biggest things that I didn't realize, but I do looking back. She always spoke success. She never spoke poverty. She didn't speak broke, and even if we didn't have anything. And in doing so, she always said, you know, when you go to university, when you do this, when you do that. And even though I had no idea how we were going to do that, and she never gave me the means to do it, she just spoke it into existence, so to speak. And so, but she said, you know, just go out and do something. And so what do you do when you're 12, 13, 14 and you want to make some money? Because I said, I would like to do this. I'd like to learn how to ski. I'd like to go get a job, go find something. Well, no one really offers you a job when you're that age, so you got to create a job. So my entrepreneurial journey started doing that. Mowing lawns was an entrepreneurial journey. And when you have one contract and then another contract and maybe too many contracts, you find that you can hire somebody else, one of your friends, and pay them $1 an hour less than you're charging out, and all of a sudden you're an employer. And then I also worked on a farm in Delta, and I learned the benefits of contracting. Contracting your services, and I learned that you could do this is how much work I need to do, and this is the contract that I'm going to get paid. And so I remember at 15 years of age negotiating that with a local farmer to take care of the calves. And he paid an adult at the time a certain amount of hours and a certain amount per hour to get this job done. And I said, well, listen, what if I might take twice as long? But why don't you pay me what you paid him in terms of total hours, and I'll just, whatever length of time it takes me, I'll get the job done. So I learned that by having that contract, I could learn and figure out ways to be faster and actually make more money than he was making if you divide it by the hour. So I learned how to be an employer and how to have a contract before 15. And so I always look for ways to get ahead. My wife and I are entrepreneurial in spirit. My wife's a personal trainer. She's also a certified Ironman coach, and she's an all-world athlete, Ironman, and she works on functional fitness. That's her key, is that not just to train to be an Ironman, but that you're functionally fit to enjoy life and to go out, and when you want to go do a hike, you can go do a hike. We have 5 girls, 3 son-in-laws, 4 grandchildren. And, you know, we're just excited. We've grown up in the Lower Mainland. I was born in Burnaby, grew up in Delta. My wife's from Kitts. And we started our family here in Surrey, and our kids have all grown up in the school systems here. And now our grandkids are here. And so part of our entrepreneurial journey is, how did I get started in renovations? Well, my background actually is in theater and television. And so I started acting when I was 10. My mom probably says I started acting up when I was 5, but I got involved in theater and television, and I enjoyed being in front of the camera, but I also enjoyed in behind the scenes. And I went to a performing arts school in Delta, and it allowed me the opportunity then to move on to University of Victoria, where I focused in design and directing. And I had opportunities out of that that led me into residential renovations where I could take my design and I could direct a group of people. And so today, that's really what I do. I still do design and directing, except I say for real life rather than the make-believe. And, over the last 25 plus years, almost 30 years, in the residential renovation and construction industry, there's been lots of challenges along the way. I think the biggest challenge is life. Life gets in the way of your opportunities. My wife and I started our business working out of a basement suite where we didn't have the opportunity to go get a loan because our credit was so bad at the time. And probably from me making entrepreneurial mistakes as you go along. And you just start, and you hold down different jobs. You hold down opportunities. My wife worked cleaning houses. I would work with other construction companies, helping them, while you're pursuing your own dreams and your own goals. And we just started. We got to a point where 12 years ago we were still in our home. Fortunately, at that time we owned a home, and we had 5 employees working out of that home. And we had trades and sub-trades always coming in and out of our home office. And so 12 years ago, we decided we needed to, well, actually my wife decided we needed to get out of the house. And we started to branch out. We've made our home office on Fraser Highway now. And as the economy had downturned in 2008, we were able to purchase a building there. And so taking advantage of some of those difficulties. You could talk about the economic downturn 12 years ago. And by the way, is somebody monitoring with a clock or a watch? You are. Oh, great. So you're going to do this when I got 1 minute? Okay. So if I quickly shut off, you'll know the finger went up in the air. So, a lot of things along the way. My wife was in a serious car accident training for a race. She was on her bike and hit by a car and went through about 3.5 years of rehab. And so the ability to have a new bike that we put up on the wall and that she focused on that goal, even though she couldn't even sit on that bike for 2.5 years. Those are some of the things that when challenges come up, keep your goals in front of you, whatever they are, and have people around you who believe in you, even when perhaps at the moment you don't believe in yourself. And you look at different challenges in life. We have a daughter who now has a special needs child who's been in and out of NICU and Children's Hospital. And so even in later years, there's always challenges that come up, and then you take those things and they help develop resilience, and they help develop tenacity and strengths. For myself, the biggest thing that has led to our success, if you will, is just I've learned to surround myself with people who know far more than me. And that's the truth of it. I really, if you look back in my career involved in construction and renovations and design and so forth like that, it's all the people that I've been fortunate to learn from along the way. And then as an employer now, we support, people ask, what do you do? I say, well, we support 50 full-time families, because that's really what it is 50 families earn their livelihood through us in architecture, interior design, project management, construction, and then the various trades. And about 200 others, we figure, meet or gleam from us on a regular basis in their businesses or working for companies around the Lower Mainland, manufacturers and trades. And so for ourselves, the biggest thing is I've learned that failure is never final unless you let it be. And if you're going to fail, great. Just always fail forward, as John Maxwell shares. And so part of our entrepreneurial journey is just always moving forward and bringing people along with you as you enjoy the journey. And so thank you for coming along with us this morning.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Raveena. I'm from Just Cakes. Thank you so much for coming. I know I was a little bit late this morning, so thank you so much for being patient with me. So my entrepreneurial journey, this is something that I reflect on daily. So I guess I'll just start at the beginning. I was 16. I was a girl that was very insecure, as many teenagers are. I was bullied a lot in high school. How I combated that was in some self-destructive measures at first. I was very hard on myself. I was in this very low pit. But then I found my love of baking. So it ended up turning out that every single day after school, I was always someone that worked with my hands. My mother always used to say, shut off the TV, I'm gonna buy you a quilt set or a sewing set or a cake decorating set. So she bought this cake decorating set and it was sitting in the kitchen. I came home one day from school, I made my grandma some chocolate chip cookies that we always did. I made her a cup of tea and I just really started playing with this cake decorating set. And I started to realize really quickly that I love this. I found myself on YouTube countless hours, teaching myself how to cake, teaching myself little techniques, obsessively watching Cake Boss on TV. And it turned into, an obsession. I fell in love with this craft. I started posting my pictures online on Facebook, making all of my class projects in cake form, the cell membrane, Spanish amusement park, the Chrysler building for banquet dance, and it was not the nicest, but I was trying, and I felt really good about myself. That's where I feel my confidence started to emerge. And going forward, so that was in grade 10, 11, going forward into my graduation year, I felt in a much better place. I felt very sure of myself. I felt sure of my talents. Of course, that insecurity is still there in your teenage angst years, but I started to feel really good about myself. Fast forward to first year of university at UBC, I lived in the dorms, and in the dorms there's no kitchens. And that's when I found myself really going into that dark pit again. I felt like I was losing myself again. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like my surroundings were aligning with me. In that same year, I lost my grandma. And that was when I hit my rock bottom, and I was like, I need to do something to save myself from myself and, go forward and move forward. My second year of university, I got an apartment. I rented out a small apartment in Carrisdale with a friend. We had a kitchen probably half the size of this table, just one straight line, one super tiny oven, and I was so stoked. I brought all of my cake decorating things, all my pans, all my tools. In the first weekend living in that apartment, I made a cake for my cousin's baby shower cake, and I fell in love. I was like, I can do this in my own kitchen. This is insane. This is amazing. And that just kind of started that momentum for me. So I took on 2 to 3 small orders every week. That ended up, for me, fast forward to my last year in university, to me taking 5 weddings a weekend in my small apartment kitchen. And it allowed me to help pay for school, help pay for my car, my gas, my rent. And that liberty, that independence that I felt at a very young age has definitely been my catalyst for keep pushing, keep moving forward. So my degree was in psychology, so super far off from cake. But I feel like business and psychology are one and the same. In my final year of university, near graduation, my last class, ironically enough, was career counseling. And the entire theme for the semester was identify your career problem or your career challenge and counsel yourself in a term paper. And so on paper, I put, do I choose my degree or do I choose my hobby? And I go through all of these personality tests and career counseling tests in my paper, and I come to this conclusion, and I don't have a conclusion. And I go to my prof, and I said, well, I feel like on paper I can say, this is more logical, but I don't feel right about it. And she was the first person to tell me, well, why can't you do both? And I never thought it was that simple. And I was like, okay, why can't I do both? So I graduated, and I got a job a couple months after working as a behavior interventionist with children with autism. So all along the spectrum, I was working full-time with about 7 kids, as well as doing full-time cakes. I jumped from doing 13 weddings one summer to 105 in the other, while being a full-time behavior interventionist and childcare worker. So that in and of itself, that juggling everything, but loving what I was doing, was working 20 hours a day, but it felt like this is what was meant to happen. And always staying really clear of my goal in that. In November, one of my main idols is Jackie K. Ellis. Does anyone know who that is? No? Okay, so she's a Vancouver-born. She was in design before. So she's Vancouver-born pastry chef. So her story is very, very inspiring. She wrote a book called Measures of My Power, and that has been fundamental to my mindset and my way of thinking right now. But yeah, so she pulled herself out of this pit. She found her love in baking, started doing farmers markets. Then she went to Paris and went to this pastry school. So following her journey, following her story, I was intrigued about this pastry school. So in about October 2015, I was looking at it online. I said, you know what, I'm just going to send them an email and see what the process is. So I did, and they said that they had a spot in August of 2017 from bringing on new people. They only took 10 to 12 people a year or a semester, and it was capped full until then. So I thought to myself, okay, that's great. I have enough time to save up. I can pay for this. It's all going to work out. It's going to be great. 2 weeks go by. I get a phone call at 3 a.m. in the morning telling me that someone dropped out of the program, that the spot was mine if I paid tomorrow. And and I was like, okay. So that was 3 a.m. I got up at 8 a.m., banks open, emptied out all my savings and wired it to the school, and my spot was secured. Didn't tell my parents. Didn't do any, didn't say anything. Came home. I sat on it for a couple of days. I'm like nerve-wracking, like nerves, jittery. Have $74 in my bank account. I told my mom I'm going to Paris, and I had been talking about it with her. She's like, okay, when do you leave? And that was, and I'm going to get to my parents a little bit later, but that was my first big risk for my dreams and my passion. And that was inherently telling me by my actions that I was worth this. I'm doing a service to myself by taking this leap of faith. So I paid the deposit. I had to make $30,000 from November 2015 to April 2016. I had to make $30,000 to send them so I could actually be a part of the program. I worked my butt off. I worked my butt off. Again, full-time work, doing weddings, networking, doing all these events, collaborations. I created this product, well, inspired by Pinterest and the mason jar craze of that time. Created this product that was layered cake in a jar, and it absolutely took off. I did these Instagram sales. I did online sales, Facebook, Instagram, using social media to my advantage, and I was able to make that $30,000 in that time frame and go to France and not worry about anything, keep my clients happy while being there. So in April 2016, I flew to France. 2 hours before my flight, I was making my niece's first birthday cake. So my hands were covered in hot pink food coloring, and I'm this little girl in the airport, and they're like, "Why are your hands hot pink?" And I was like, "I'm going to pastry school, and I'm super excited, super amped for this." And the next 4 months were the most inspiring, most transformational 4 months of my life. And I totally believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything happened. I was presented this opportunity to go to France when I did at the perfect time for me. I was presented with the opportunity to be a behavior interventionist, to learn the power of empathy and compassion at the perfect time for me. And just remembering that, reflecting on that daily has been fundamental to my mindset, to my success, and my growth. So I came back in August of 2016. I remember the day I came back, I had some flight issues, and it was really, really late, and I was laying in my bed finally at the end of this crazy journey back home, and I promised to myself out loud, said, "You're going to open a bakery in 12 months." And I did it in 11. And it was absolutely the hardest, most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, is to go from zero and coming back with nearly nothing, working my butt off, working crazy, crazy hours, sacrificing family weddings, family vacations, family trips, friends, just being so focused on my goal, knowing that it was so worth it, and that I spent so much time up to that point working towards that I had to do this. That, again, failure wasn't an option. And so that's what happened. Over the next year, I made relationships with contractors who would look at me, this 21-year-old brown girl, They'd be like, you can't do this. And I got that a lot as a young South Asian woman. I got that a lot from people in the South Asian community as well. Like, no, where's your dad? It's not your company. No, it's my company, and I'm gonna run it. And people, didn't know how to deal with that at first. But now I can confidently say that, as we're growing, as we're building our brand, that, that comes to the forefront, that we are a team of primarily women, young women. I'm the eldest person in our team is 27 years old, and there's 12 of us. And we run this company, and we're making moves, and we're doing big things, and dreaming and showcasing that dreams definitely have the power to make your life if you let them. And if you let your dreams serve you, and if you're aligned with that and your vision is super clear, it'll happen. Again, speaking it into existence. I'm a total believer in that. And yeah, it's been a hard, amazing journey. So, yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you. I'm just already so inspired. I want to start my own business. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a microphone in the middle of the room. We're recording this session as well for further distribution. So please approach the microphone, state your name, company, and your question. So while you're thinking about that, I just wanted to start off with a question of my own. When you started your business, what skill sets do you think that you, when looking back, that you needed? Anyone?
Cool. Well, being super young and naive, I feel looking back, I feel financial literacy was huge, and just knowing what things meant. Beyond that, just knowing that just the skill or the knowledge that you're not going to know everything. And exactly like you said, putting yourself in spaces where people know more than you so you can learn from that, and just a continuous cycle of learning, and that you will never know everything. So just the knowledge of that, I think, is super important.
Touching on that, staying humble, especially when I was young, and people in the construction industry, for example, they don't look up to you, they look down at you. And so by acknowledging how successful they are and the skill sets that they have, and then having them as part of your team. So I would push the attention onto other people. I still try to do that to this day. And those that know their specific area, whether they're an engineer, an architect, a designer, whether they've been building or renovating or electrical or plumbing or whatever it is, always trying to lift them up. And it's a lot easier to do that than for ourselves to lift ourselves up. And we get pulled up as we lift other people up.
I think for myself was really believing in myself and what I wanted to do and to accomplish. I go back to being a young woman. I was 23 when I started Creative Kids, and people constantly looked down at me. I couldn't do it. You're a woman. What do you know? Do you have a business degree? I don't have a business degree. I didn't know anything about business. But what I knew about was me. I believed in me. I believed in teaching children, and again, failure wasn't an option, and I just kept pushing forward and filling myself with people who were smarter than me. And I'm okay with that, and I actually still do to this day. Always, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, and I never am, to be honest. But I always believe in myself, and just keep trudging forward. Just really give it your all.
Well, as a young woman, I can definitely relate. I remember those years. Baljeet, your question, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing all of your stories. I'd be remiss if I didn't say they were heart-touching. I'm speechless in terms of your journeys. It's very nice of you to share that and inspire all of us. One thing I did notice, I'll make a comment before asking a question. One thing I did notice, that the common factor between all three of your stories is endurance, perseverance, and never quitting. Believing in yourself. If you weren't strong deep down in your roots, whatever your backgrounds, you wouldn't be where you are. So great, kudos to that. My question here is, as all of you employ a lot of people, you have great team members right now because you're flourished, and perhaps your next 5-10 year plan is to even grow further. Are you looking at your staff or people outside to mentor, to bring up, to cultivate, seeing that potential like you had going back 10, 20 years? Do you have something like that in plan? Are you looking at that kind of stuff where you can sort of identify individuals in your careers, in your trade, and say, well, what can I do now because I'm pretty good now? So any comments from all three of you?
I'll jump in. I'm the senior one here. And first of all, I've never really thought about exit strategy. It was interesting, people bring up exit strategies from a point of ever retiring. Okay, because my wife and I, one of the things we do, because we have several different business is coaching, and not just in the personal training side of things, but coaching life coaches, coming alongside other couples, other business owners. And so within our businesses, bringing up people through, obviously there's trade programs of apprenticeships. That's one way out in the construction industry. But also just as in our staff, we do education, not just on terms of what they do for a living, but we bring in financial planners to help them with their thinking through their financial goals and savings and buying their first home if that's what they're doing, or how to plan for retirement, how to protect themselves tax-wise, different things like that. And then just looking for leaders within your organization and helping raise them up, doing educational situations where we bring in other coaches, for example, from John Maxwell's organization, or Franklin Covey, and different things like that, where you're helping bring people up from the inside out, not just in terms of their head knowledge and so on. So yeah, you're always looking for opportunities, not only for yourself in personal growth, but helping to bring others up as well. So
I find the same ourselves. With having up to 200 staff, we do a lot of in-house training now. We do 2 large in-services a year where we bring in guest speakers who talk about everything from a positive work culture to connection. Gosh, we bring in early childhood educators and so on. We just recently implemented a pension plan into the company, so the staff were just over the moon to have that option and that benefit for themselves. We also have workshops that we do twice a month now. We have a curriculum coordinator in our company. We actually have 9 head office staff now, which to me is just crazy. So we have myself, we have an office manager, an assistant office manager, a controller, VP of HR, a VP of operations. We have a curriculum coordinator, and we have a director of facilities. So I feel we have a really great team that supports our company. And there's a lot of room for growth. So I feel people coming into Creative Kids look for this as a full career. They can really come from just coming in as an assistant up to a supervisor, up to a facility manager, an assistant facility manager, potentially into head office. I've had people come to me about franchising. I've been approached to sell the company as an entirety. I'm not interested in any of that at this time. Right now, I'm the largest private childcare company in all of British Columbia. There are big box companies, shall we say, out there, but most of them are franchised or publicly traded companies. So for me, I feel there's a lot of opportunity for the employees in the company, and we do a lot of in-house training and really support our families and being able to make a good living wage and more. So
being in a company that's more on the creative side of things, baking, pastry, a lot of people tend to think that, it doesn't pay well, or it's very laborious and all this kind of stuff. But I think my main thing when forming this company is I wanted the company culture to come first and foremost, because that filters into everything, and providing opportunities as such. So giving the responsibility and letting them show up for you. I think that has been my main goal in bringing in, again, workshops and, flying them out to classes and stuff like that, and letting them work on their craft and skill, the reason why they're passionate about being there, but also allowing, my main managers, my main staff to really, know that we're there for their success, and I want to see them succeed in their life, not just their career. I think that's super important. And then the mentorship is huge, and just allowing that option for them there as well. Yeah.
One thing that I found is really helped in the company, we've gone through some hard times in the last couple of years. That's a whole other thing to go through. But one thing that I find is really connecting with your staff. I find that is really important. When I walk into a center, they're just so happy to see me, and I want to connect to the staff. And Steinberg College actually came up to us not too long ago, and they want to there's 11 spots for Creative Kids staff to do their IT training, which is a diploma or a degree at this point. So we are funding to have 11 of our staff to do their IT, so basically free schooling. So this is really exciting for the staff as well. And another thing we do is we take our facility managers, there's 11 of them right now, and we go away for a weekend with the head office people, and we connect with them, and we have meetings, and we set goals, and we just really create this amazing culture of connection and appreciation. And if I can say anything, when you appreciate your staff, they really go a long way for you.
Any other questions from the audience? So while you're thinking, can you just talk about how important marketing is, and what challenges or tips for the audience that you have?
So we've been very successful as a company because of marketing. I'm not from a construction background. I didn't swing a hammer. That wasn't how I started. I started from thinking through the business side and the marketing side, and recognizing that we needed to create a brand that and what that brand meant. So My House Design Build, we've been fortunate over the years to be associate with the Greater Vancouver Home Builders Association, now called Haven, the National Home Builders Association, Chamber of Commerce, Surrey Board of Trade, and as we've done those types of networking and being part of that, we've been part of a lot of awards. We've been very blessed, definitely in the last 10 years. We've received over 100 different industry-related awards, including the last 5 years, Renovator of the Year for all of BC, the BC Georgie Awards. But those awards are great, but if you don't take them and put them into your marketing and your plan and how you're presented to your clients, and you're presented out in the community and in networking and so forth like that, then you really fail. I mean, in all fairness, we're not in the construction business, we're in the people business. And I think all of us, we might be in cakes, but we're in the people business, because if the people aren't there, no one's eating cake. So and so we recognize that, it's people, it's connecting to people, and connecting to people is marketing, and so that's the foundation really of what we've been successful at, is making sure that we are known for what we do, not just doing what we do.
Just to even branch off that, people buy you, the brand, not the product at the end of the day. For us, our successful marketing has been a lot on social media, but even in our email marketing, just connecting, again, that connection with the person, with the consumer, making them feel like the hero. You're not the hero, they are the hero, and you're just that medium for them to get to their end place. And just really connecting with your avatar, with who your ideal client is, who you want, the logistics side of things. But at the end of the day, sharing your why, sharing your reason why you started this business, your story, that will take you so much farther than, plasting some pretty pictures up. And I think that just remembering that it doesn't need to be picture perfect all the time. You can tell people your why, your reasoning, your story, and people are going to align with that and connect with that more, and that's going to stick in their brain. Simple psychology.
I agree. I believe it really comes down to who's talking about you. You can market yourself all you want, spend tons on advertising, but for me, I mean, being in the industry of children, I can't think of anything more important than taking care of and educating children. And for us, it's connecting with the families. I say to my staff all the time, if they're not talking about you at the playground or at the dinner party, then they don't want you educating their children. So for us, we have to reach the children and the families and then get it out into the community. Of course, we're on social media and we have lots of followers, and that's been quite a platform, especially in the last 5 years, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. You know, we used to be in the newspaper. That doesn't happen anymore. We used to send out flyers at registration time. But really, right now, it's who's talking about you and how are you reaching the families and the communities and the people. And for me, I think the biggest marketing tool is, how well are you known and how good are you doing your job?
What is one government legislation, red tape, for example, that's impacting your business?
So I'm in the construction industry, and so it's definitely becoming more onerous and so many levels that you have to go through. So the permit process is definitely a difficult process, definitely slows things down in all municipalities, not just here in Surrey. At the same time, it's a double-edged sword. It's important that we have proper legislation. It's important that we have better guidelines. And so I've sat on several boards and sit on several boards involving trying to up the education of our builders, the industry raising the bar. And so though it is difficult with those types of situations, it also is a benefit. We now in BC are implementing the STEP code, and it's only been, if I could just speak on the platform, we think of people have to be licensed to be an electrician. We have to be licensed if you're a gas fitter. You probably know this, right? You have to be licensed to be a plumber. You have to be licensed to build a home. But only a year and a half ago did they implement mandatory education to be a licensed home builder. So a realtor could be a licensed home builder. A mom, a dad, and anybody could be a licensed home builder. It didn't mean they knew how to build homes. It's only in the last 2 years they're starting to do that. So there's a huge catch-up, which unfortunately out in the community, people think if you're a licensed home builder, you must know what you're doing, and that unfortunately isn't always the norm. But to renovate a home, all of you know someone who's done or had renovations on their home, and you don't need a license. So you can hire anybody to renovate your home, and that person doesn't have to have any qualifications. They don't have any licensing. And yet you go across the border to Washington State, to Oregon, to California, and other states, and some of our other provinces, and there's actual be a licensed renovator. There's a process. There's mandatory education. There's something that the consumer can actually see and go, that's what I'm hiring. We don't have that. So we need some of that. We need more of that. Not necessarily red tape, but we definitely need better education, and we need better control of those types of trades so that the consumers are protected.
To touch on that, government, early childhood education, you have to have educators come in, so they have their ECE, etc. We also have to adhere to licensing standards, so Fraser Health, that is very important. And then on top of that, I actually feel quite supported by the government. There's a lot of grants out there for someone in my industry, for like just even to build centers or to put pea gravel in your playground. We have so many grants out there for early childhood companies, and I find that really supportive. The one thing we're challenged right now is with this new employer tax. My God, that's kind of taking us out. It's a huge financial burden, but you have to deal with it. So,
one of the things that we're finding at our business center at the Board of Trade is that a lot of startup businesses don't see the value in having a business plan. They think they can get a loan without a business plan or a financial plan. So can you just articulate how important that is, not only in the startup phase, but also in an ongoing way as your business matures?
So I started this before even starting the business, before having the storefront. I always have a one-page business plan, and it's very clear, my vision, my mission statement, and it's always going to change. But it's just, again, realigning with that vision. Logistically, banks want to see that. People want to see your projections. People want to see what you expect from your business. But it also just allows you to have a plan and to work kind of backwards. Like, I want to make this much this year. I want to have this many sales or so forth. And this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't have that, then you're kind of just floating. And that's when you find that a lot of startups may not do as well, is when they don't have a plan in place. So I think it's just, fundamental to success. It's just setting yourself up for success.
Surrounding myself with people who knew more than me, finding the right financial planner, the right accountant, the right insurance person, the right lawyer. Those are the keys to having that financial and that business plan for me.
I agree. I mean, going back to the CIBC Newton, I had no business plan. I just was very tenacious. Looking back, I should have had a business plan in place. Again, that was 1996, and I knew nothing. But looking back now, we set goals all of the time for the company. We are constantly looking at where we are, our budgets, our profits, all of that, whether we're making any. And I think it's just really important to, again, surround yourself by those amazing people. And again, a good accountant is so important, and good lawyers. You get more lawyers as you move on in life. And honestly, just surrounding yourself with everybody who knows more, I think, is really important. And a business plan is very helpful.
And there is a question coming. Yes, go ahead.
I'm not that tall. Okay. So you've all spoken about hiring and that you've been able to kind of grow and add numbers to your team. How did you find making that initial jump was from you to your first person to your third person? Like, was there a struggle in that? Because I know kind of that could be the threshold where a lot of businesses, they just can't kind of get over that hurdle. So if you could express on that, that'd be great.
For us, our biggest issue is staffing. We struggle all of the time for staff, and especially educated staff. So that is a constant struggle for us. I feel for us, every time we opened a location, like just opening Chilliwack, we had to hire 25 people. So, staffing our facilities is a struggle. But the jump really it was me and then an assistant and then open up another location. So it was slow and steady wins the race per se. But again, just finding and retaining quality people who have the work ethic that you do is the biggest challenge for me. And dealing, with millennials and people just in different sectors in their life and coming and going, and just the work ethic isn't what it was at my age. I just don't find that anymore. So that's the struggle for us, truly.
My wife said you need to find a person, meaning she couldn't be my person to do all the stuff that needed to be done if we were going to stay married. So that was our first person that I needed to hire, was somebody to just be that, go help me do whatever needed to be done. And Shauna's been with me 18 years now, and she's a right hand for both of us, but in all of our business dealings. And then from there, building that alliance, building that central nucleus team, being able to then start building your team as your business plan says it needs to do. And we've been really, really blessed in acquiring, or if you finding, being led to the right people in the right positions. I don't like HR. I don't do the firing and all that. That's hard. You build relationships with people. However, we have, fortunately, we've not had to let many people go in our company. We have a great retaining rate, which is probably one of the testaments. I mean, I have people who've been with me for 25 years. And in the trades industry, it's not necessarily heard of like that. So that I can point to our team members with our clients and be able to say, Pierce has been with me 25 years, and Norm's been with me, actually, he says 28 years. And I can point to people in key positions over time. And I think it's how you treat people. They feel valued. They feel that they're part of a team. We named our company My House Design Build Team because I saw a lot of my contemporaries putting their last name of their surname on their company, and I thought, well, okay, that's good for me, but what about all these people? And so we put the word team, and that's the emphasis, because that's exactly what it takes to do what we do, is a team. So.
For me, that shift of, making cakes for my house to shifting to a storefront and then having staff, which was insane to me. It was, my parents being like, get out of my kitchen and, find someone. And I was lucky enough that, I'm a huge believer of what you put out into the universe that comes to you, if your intentions are right. So I met my head baker, who's been with me since the start, at a wedding show. She was pretending to be engaged because she just wanted to look at all the cakes. And she came to my booth and started asking questions. I was like, you're not getting married. You're a baker. That's why you're asking me questions. And she's like, yeah, I hate my job. I'm really looking for somewhere else. And I was like, well, I'm opening up, and I hope a couple months. Do you want to be my full-time baker? She was a Red Seal. And I was super, super lucky. And, And so it's a cool story. And it's just kind of taking that leap of faith. I'm also a huge believer of say yes and figure it out. And you will figure it out. I have one of my friends in one of my accountability groups, and he's in the construction industry as well, and he buys a new pickup truck every year, and he's like, I'm going to fill that truck with someone great. And he's done that for 7 years. So, yeah.
Hi, Rory Morgan from the law firm of Hamilton Duncan. It warms my heart every time you put an S at the end of the word lawyer. So thank you very much. We can bring in some more lawyers. Hopefully you're doing a great job. Is it sunny? So my question was, we're talking about business plans, goal setting. How much time do you spend going beyond the next goal? Like long-term planning, 5 years, 8 years. That's where we're turning our minds to now, is beyond what does the next year look like to where do we want to be in 5 years? Setting our goals for down the road, because otherwise it's just year to year to year to year, but rather going down that longer time period.
That's a great question. Like I mentioned, we've just gone through a couple hard years, and one of them actually had to do with one of my long-term staff who I thought was my person and ended up not being my person. So the last couple of years have really been about trust. So for me, if I'm looking long-term, I don't actually know where that is right now, but that's something that I want to work on now that we've caught up in the last couple of years to where we are now. And you just look at obstacles in business, and that's been an obstacle. So now I feel we're at the point again where we can actually look at a long-term plan, but we had it in the last couple of years. So I think that's a direction we're going now, whereas I was kind of just going more year to year. So it's, when you say that's something that your company is looking towards for longevity, I think it's a great idea to do that instead of just kind of your next year. So for me, that's going to be our next goal. So it hasn't been in the last couple of years, so due to the obstacles.
15 years ago, I hired, 13 years ago, hired an accountant who also was a consultant, and he had written books, and he conducted seminars through the Home Builders Association as part of their teaching accreditation. And one of the books he wrote was how to have your company be Business of the Year. And so we, out of that book and his counsel, outlined a plan, a 5-year, 10-year plan to be Business of the Year. In our industry, Renovator of the Year, Builder of the Year, Georgie's, that type of thing. And so as a company, we started looking at that as a group. What do we need to do to get there in 5 years? Because it's not something you just go out and be. You've got to develop, and you have to show the fruit on the tree, and you have to have It's one thing to be certified. We talk about, being certified as a built green, certified renovator, builder, being a certified this, that, or the other thing. But then you have to go out and back that up with the work that actually represents it, and have the right people in the right places, and maybe sometimes getting rid of the wrong people who are in the wrong places. And so, yeah, you need to develop that vision, not just in terms of your own personal goals, but the steps in getting there. And again, surrounding yourself with people to help you reach those goals or understand those goals was really important.
When you set a 5-year plan, it's funny how when you have that vision, that actually becomes your 2-year plan. So again, it's just about, putting that vision out there, being super, super, super clear about it. Like, we're going to make X amount of dollars, this many sales, have this many clients, our company's going to be this great, and just being super, super clear about it. I think that's really helped me. Like, I know exactly what I want to accomplish in 5 years, and knowing me and the rigor and having that in front of me, I'm going to accomplish it in 3. So just, again, it's just really aligning with that vision and have that belief in yourself that you can do it, and just revisit. So that's all I would say on that.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. I was a corporate executive for many years, and I left a couple years ago and started my own business. And what I didn't know is how much more work that was than what I was doing. So I was a humble awakening. I joined a digital marketing company last fall, a startup. We have 10 employees now. We're growing fast. My question to you is, what's on my radar is the scalability. If we want to be at 20, 30 people, in the next year and a half, to me, I'm going, okay, if we make wrong hires, if we make bad decisions, that's the biggest thing that's keeping me up at night, is not what we're doing, how we're doing it, but the people we're going to onboard to help us move forward. Because if we make a mistake, it's going to push us back. We won't be able to recover from that very quickly. How did you guys get through that? Because that is risky and something that...
Rephrase your question. How did you get through?
How did you get through getting the right people on board and separating the wheat from the chaff? Because sometimes if you get the wrong people, they're out there, they're doing something. By the time you have a chance to see and fix it, there's already a wake of damage that's been done to your brand, right?
I talked about longevity, and we've been very fortunate to have people with us along the way. Mm-hmm. But I've also had to learn how to recognize as quick as possible a wrong fit. I just had a staff member that we hired, started 1st of January in a specific key role, and within 90 days had to let that person go. Not because they necessarily didn't have the right skill set, and that all the pieces made sense for her to be in that particular role, but it just didn't gel, just didn't fit in the team. And on ours, cohesiveness and collaboration and working off of each other's energy and so forth was really important. And it just wasn't happening. And so as an owner, the hard decision of saying, I need to let you go, that's you got to be willing to do that. It's not an easy task, not something I like to do or want to do, never wanted to do, but you got to learn how to do it, because otherwise that it'll rock everything else. And I've also had recently, going through things, I've had somebody who's been with me for 5 years, had to let go because things changed in their life, which changed their personality, which changed how they did what they were paid to do, which impacted our business. And we had to part ways. And so, it was, and that was a huge hole to fill and a very difficult decision. But sometimes the best decisions, even though they're the hardest decisions, they, when you make them, and then you have some perspective after the fact, not when you're in the middle of it, but after the fact, you go, okay, I needed to have made that decision. That was a right decision. So I hope I answered that.
Very well, yeah, thank you.
I absolutely agree with you. It's the hard conversations, and for me, growing too fast can be problematic at times because you need people, and then it seems you're filling holes. And I believe you don't want to ever put yourself in the position to fill holes, because then you're not necessarily getting the right people who are aligned with your mission statement, your philosophy, etc. I'm more of a believer of slow and steady wins the race. though I didn't do that. Therefore, I've been put in positions of hiring people who weren't aligned with our philosophy and have had to let people go. I mean, we've actually just decided that this week with a couple of people we need to let go. And it's never easy to do, but it's really important. I cannot emphasize enough, especially in the upper management and the people that are connecting with whomever you're serving in the community, is to make sure that those people are aligned with your philosophy, your mandate, your business plan. And if they're not, they need to go, because you will not serve what you need to in your industry without the right people.
Yeah, just to reiterate, I feel like it's a lot more important to have, or to answer the question, how many hands do you have in your company versus what are those hands doing? And it's also the factor of trust. And just, again, just reiterating what they also said, just having that trust. You're going to have those hard conversations. That's the nature of being in business. But being able to really just be hyper aware of if people are aligned with your core values, your mission statement, your vision. And I think you can tell that quite quickly with your core values and mission statement, yeah.
Thank you. It sounds like cultural
Yes.
fit is the key, the real key there.
Sure of your culture.
Yeah.
You have to be really clear on your
And you have to do that up front. We did that too. And it's strange because I was born and raised in a way, you don't say no to business, you always make it work. My partners are millennials, and if they don't like a client, we just tell them politely, this isn't going to work. That was hard for me to kind of absorb.
You need good employee contracts too.
Yes.
Be really clear in your contracts.
I hope you're all doing at least a takeaway from today. Like, I can't take everything, but I can take one sentence. So I got, how many hands are in your business? No, it's what are those hands doing? So that's great. I like it.
Next question, yes.
Dwayne Eberhard with Strategic Net Worth. I've been fortunate enough over the years to work from large corporations, government, to small corporations. And as a business consultant, I've worked all across Canada and the US, and I've seen common themes, and I'd like to hear your interpretations of it. It's a double-sided question. One is, when I go into these companies, one of the first things I ask about your numbers. Do they know your numbers? And I dig deep into the numbers, knowing margins, if this product is more profitable versus this service or whatever that might be. And the other side of that is, as a business owner, I always talk to the owners about working in the business versus working on the business. And one of the struggles I see is very common is the owners get stuck working in the business and not thinking about working on the business. Whether that's your vision, your mission statement, your long-term goals. So I'd like to hear your interpretation of how you handle knowing your numbers versus in the business and versus on the business.
I'll do a quick one on that. Knowing your numbers, again, surrounding yourself with people who know more than you do. I don't like numbers. I really don't. So I have a controller in my company who I work with all of the time, and she really likes numbers. So one thing that we did just last week actually is we ran all the numbers, and we sat down with our head office team and we showed them the numbers. They didn't need to know all the numbers, but they needed to know where we were spending too much and where we were making bad choices and where we needed to have more conversations. And I just couldn't believe how happy they were to actually have the numbers shared with them. Again, they didn't need all the numbers, but they needed to see where we could be doing better as a team instead of me just making the decisions based on the numbers with my controller. So I found that really helpful, was to actually share more with your team in regards to, all of the margins, et cetera. What was the other question? Oh, working on the business.
In versus on.
And that is something I'm working on right now, because I was more in the business and now I need to be more on the business in terms of the 5-year, 10-year plan, et cetera. So that's something that I'm actually is one of my focuses at the time. But in regards to numbers, I really found that was very helpful.
I've always been an in the business person, but wise counsel has, made sure that, I make sure that I spend adequate time working on the business. Because you're able to separate yourself and look from the outside and see what's going on. My dentist works downtown at the Bentall building, and I look up to Ken a lot. He's very, very successful, and I'll go there, and then even though he's got so many things going on and very successful, I'll go and have a whatever it is done on my teeth. And that night, I get a phone call from Ken. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Probably anybody that he puts Novocaine in or whatever, right? Make sure you haven't died. But no, but he takes the time, and I'm going like, how does he do this? And he's very active and in so many different things, him and his wife. But he always takes the time to find out how you're doing. So I stole that, and I take the time to reach out to. I have a goal for who I'm reaching out to, whether it's in my family, reaching out to my kids because they're now out of the house, reaching out to my staff. You can't reach out to everybody every week, but reach out to somebody, a plan to reach out, how you doing, where are we at? And then I reach out to our clients at key junctures, hey, how are we doing? And asking the tough questions is part of working on your business, is asking questions to, how are we doing? Talking to whether it's your clients and staff and, how are we succeeding here? Because often your staff doesn't want to ask that question. In fact, they never really want to, they don't want to know the answer sometimes. And then asking those questions in front of them so that they hear the responses and so forth like that. So to me, those are little pieces of working on your business and knowing the numbers. Sharing, being transparent is not something as an entrepreneur that I don't like. I like holding my cards to myself. So being transparent to a certain extent, to the level that you can trust with the right people is important. And so sharing with our staff, this is where we're at, this is why we need to do what we're doing, this is the impact you have in this area, and which benefits us or it detracts from us. And we want you to be part of that benefit. We profit share in our company. It's part of our how we employ. And from that aspect, we want to share and be transparent in the numbers.
Both of these aspects are things that I'm currently working on. Last year, I definitely found myself working in the business a lot. Was very, tunnel vision. I just need to make this cake and that's it. I'm good. But this year was a huge goal of mine to really step back and look, bird's eye view. What's going on? What are the holes that we need to fix? And that comes in with also, separating myself from the business. So working on the business, getting those systems in place. I hired a restaurant hospitality consultant to help me with those things, and it's, changed my life. Like I spend maybe 4 hours hands-on a day rather than 20. Like that's huge. And I get to work on my health and all this kind of stuff and work on the business and growing it and expanding it, which is the goal. In terms of numbers, again, on Monday was actually the first day that I really was, okay, I need to stop being so tunnel vision and see where we're going. And it actually made me feel a lot better about where we're going. And again, sharing that with the management team, I also found when I did share that with them, they, I got 20 texts that day, just ideas, how we can cut costs here, or how we can do better here, or here's an idea for marketing, or things like that. And just getting people involved will make them feel part of the company. And again, that alludes to company culture. So I feel both those things are very, very important because at the end of the day, we're in business for what? To make money. Tangible, right? But of course, other reasons, your passion, it's your livelihood and everything. But at the end of the day, money is gonna help you live your life. Well, you don't want to lose it. Exactly. So you're in your business and you want to make the right decision so you can thrive in your business, right? Rather than just survive. So.
And let your staff thrive.
Totally, exactly, thrive with you. And I think sharing that, being transparent with that, of course, to a certain degree, is fundamental, for sure.
Thank you.
So the last question that I have for you, and I just want you to respond in one sentence, is life is moving so quickly, social and economic conditions continue to change. How do you stay driven and focused to advance your business?
Vision.
Family.
Childcare is an essential service.
There you have it, folks. A round of applause for our panelists. So we have provided a gift for you, so please use it. You know, it's a lunch bag with full of Surrey Board of Trade promotional items. So thank you so much. Just so inspiring. And of course, we're going to send it out to our 15,000 social media contacts as well. So thank you, Melissa, for podcasting this as well this morning. Again, thank you to our sponsors, the BC Business Magazine and the Surrey Now Leader, our Business and International Trade Center sponsors, the law firm of Fasken, the accounting firm of PwC, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan represented by SNF Benefits. Check out our website, businessinsurrey.com, for a series of amazing events that we're having in June. Next Tuesday morning is our next Hot Topic Dialogue focused on the Fraser River and its untapped economic potential. June 6th is our oversold golf tournament, and the chair, our godfather, Steve Stew, is in the house as well. And on June 13th, join us in the Health and Technology District right here in Surrey for a business networking reception at Neuromotion Physiotherapy. Ladies and gentlemen, make it a great business day. Have a great weekend.